Hello, Facebook.
Hello, Facebook.
Cool. This is episode 1, so there will be lots of screw-ups, lots of
Pauses,
ums, ahs.
It's your turn, not mine.
Lots of me going frantically looking for notes.
Stop
here.
now.
So we're not actually recording on the audio yet. This is just live for Facebook at the moment. So this community is for you guys to ask us any questions that you've got. If there's anything you want us to cover in the weekly podcasts, this is the place to leave them. You can keep the conversation going on this week's episode as well. So anything that we kind of talk about in this week's episode, you can kind of comment in this thread, kind of keep it there. If you've got any questions you want to ask us live whilst we're actually recording the podcast, good luck with that.
Because we're not really going to answer them. In fact, we might not even get to look at them until the end of this, and then we'll cover them at the end.
Yeah. No, I mean, the idea is we're going to record this. We're going to have the Facebook thread open. There is a delay, so if you type a question, we probably won't see it until at least 30-40 seconds later. If we're mid-flow, we're not going to be there anyway. But if there's any questions, we will mop up towards the end of the podcast. And if we don't get to your question in the live podcast, we will answer it in the Facebook group afterwards. No comment will be left untouched. So, is that everything for the community?
Yeah, you've just done my section. That's rather good.
Cool. But that's okay, because you can do it for the podcast. You can do it for the live recording. So the wonderful, the fantastic 9 members that we've now got in this group, specially invited friends and family. No family. There's a reason for that, as you'll hear later in the podcast. Anyway, shall we crack on?
Let's.
Right, I need to figure out how to start recording this thing then. So, what do you know? We're live. So, do some intro music, and here we go with. So, hi there, welcome to episode 1 of the Big Idea podcast. My name's John, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, long-time associate, Mr. Jason Rodman.
Associate. 13 years, you know. 13 years. Hi.
Doesn't seem that long.
It doesn't.
25 years old. So the topic of this podcast for today's show is be careful who you listen to. So the big question on that therefore is, who are we and why should you listen to us? So that is a very good question. Who am I? Well, I am John Lammerton. I'm the Managing Director of Big Idea Media Limited, and I've been working in business and in marketing in particular for getting on for 16 years now. So created multiple businesses over that time, countless different sectors. We have evolved consistently and constantly, and picked up lots of tips and tricks along the way that we're going to be sharing with you guys over the coming weeks and hopefully years. So, as a marketing group, we've been working with a small number of people here in Plymouth on a one-to-one basis over the last year or so, and we want to scale that up now. We want to help a lot more people. So we've helped probably about 12 people this year to grow their businesses, and that's been fantastic. What we want to do in 2017 is to help a lot more people. I was saying to Jason just before we switched the microphone on that we helped 12 people this year, or last year as it is now. In 2017, we want to help a good 12,000 people, and this podcast is going to be a great way of doing that. So that's who I am. Hopefully, you'll want to listen to me. If not, it's been nice knowing you. And I'll now hand you over to Mr. Jason Brockman.
Now, I have been listening to John for the last 13 years. Joined the business to kind of help John out at the time when he finished working full time. And since then we've kind of, as John said, evolved the business lots of ways. I consider myself kind of as kind of the ideas man of Big Idea. I do come up with lots of ideas and think about things in a different way than perhaps you would have done before, and then hopefully come up with some of the ways of implementing it as well. So that's kind of how I think I like to help. I'm kind of passionate about helping people. I love to give support where I can, and so any questions really, I'm kind of your man to answer them if I can.
Right, so that's, I think, how we work. So how's the podcast going to work? Well, what we're aiming to do here, we're not going to be like your typical American podcast where we're just trying to sell you non-stop, where you've got 5 minutes of adverts before you even get into any of the content. We're not going to have an endless procession of guest stars coming in. It's basically going to be myself and Jason venting, ranting, giving value. What are you shaking your head for there?
Gonna find out what we're going to vent about and rant about. That's going to be exciting.
It should be. I think we're very passionate about what we do, and I think what makes us work very well together is that we don't always agree.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say you don't surround yourself with yes men. And I think we may well have the odd Barney, the odd disagreement, and I think that could make for some interesting audio.
Yeah.
So, but we haven't.
If you're on the Facebook Live, then that might be interesting to see too.
Exactly. So, Facebook Live, Jason, talk us through, because obviously, if you are listening to this on audio on the podcast, you will not even be aware that we are recording this live on Facebook. So, Jason, do you want to tell us a little bit about how our Facebook community works?
Yeah. So, those of you who are watching us right now, you've already found our Facebook group. You've searched for Big Idea Podcast, and you found us. Asked to join the group, and we'll let you in. Every lunchtime on a Monday, we will go and have this live podcast broadcasted out to you guys, and then we'll have that transcribed. And then if you're listening to the podcast, then there you are. But if you come and join us on Facebook, you can then keep in contact with the conversation as we're going along. You can then ask any questions you like at the end, which we can cover for you. And also, you can get in your questions that you'd like us to cover for next week. Good?
That was This is very new to us.
Is that your pregnant pause that you wanted?
It is. We need to get used to this, throwing across the desk to each other. So, should we get into the topic of this week's podcast? So, the topic for this week is be careful who you listen to, and the reason I've chosen this as our first episode is because I was dicking around on Facebook the other day, and I came across a thread. Now, those of you who know me know I'm well into my juicing. I like to drink fruit and vegetable juices, have done for a couple of years, transformed my life. We'll do a future podcast about that. But someone was asking their friends and family on Facebook, should I do juicing? Has anyone read this book? And some of the comments that this person received from their friends and family, their so-called
trusted sources.
Yeah, exactly. It was just ridiculous, from the uninformed to the partially informed. There were comments like, "Oh, well, you can't do that because you don't get the fibre." Well, I've done some research on this. You don't get insoluble fibre; you get soluble fibre. It's basically the fibre you can actually digest. The nutrients are all in there. Anyway, I just got very, very angry that people were very quick to dish out advice, and I think that's one of those things that one of my mentors always said, that free advice is worth every penny, and you really do need to be careful who you listen to. So all the people on this thread saying it's dangerous, you shouldn't do it. I read a book that said this, or I've seen a documentary that says X, Y, Z, and I think, well, I've lived through it. I've done it for 3 years. It's worked for me. I can speak from my personal experience. But if you'd rather listen to someone that's seen a documentary that might or might not have had a biased angle on it, that's up to you. At one point we will cover something that I'm kind of quite passionate about, which is these 5, what I call the 5 magic ingredients for success. And that sounds really American and really spammy, and I apologise now for that. If I can come up with a better name for it, I will. But at the end of the day, they are the 5 things that, if you study any successful person, they've all had these 5 magic ingredients. And one of them, it's actually ingredient number 4, is the environment that you surround yourself with. Now, we've all heard that you become the sum of the 5 people around you, and that your network is your net worth. And if you haven't heard that, basically it's the premise that if you hang around with 5 losers or 5 drug addicts, you're going to become the 6th loser. You're going to become the 6th drug addict. If you hang around with 5 multi-millionaires, that you're going to become the 6th. And I think I really do subscribe to that who you surround yourself, and what you put in your ears, and what you put in front of your eyes, really does dictate the direction that your life goes. So I think
you did that though, didn't you? Because you read a book.
Yeah,
and this is quite an example. Really, you put in front of you the book about stopping alcohol.
That was
wasn't
first.
It?
Yeah,
that was your very first step, wasn't it? You took on, the new John kind of thing, which has now been 3 years. You said that's brilliant. But it was he put himself in front of this book. He read this book, and then never touched a drop of alcohol after that. And so it is important that you kind of like whatever you kind of read, is in front of you, and it's good.
It is. I think
it's good.
I mean, one thing to be careful of is you need to check the credentials of who you're listening to. Not necessarily to see whether they're qualified or not, but whether they're right for you. So, as an example, I subscribed to a podcast the other day, and it was I can't think what the hell it was called now, and I don't want to actually name check it in case I upset the poor guy. But it was, in all but any other name, it was Building Wealth. Was the kind of the way it was sold, and I thought, that's cool. That's what I'm interested in. We invest. We're kind of growing our investment assets now. This is what we want to learn more about. So I want to find people who've built significant wealth, and I want to learn from them. And so I start listening to this wealth building podcast, and a few comments come out. Like the guy was talking about property, and suddenly said, "Of course, I don't own any property yet, but I hope to one day." And also this little alarm bell went off in my head, and I thought, well, if you have built wealth, and you say that property is a good tool for building wealth, why the hell don't you own any? And other little comments then started leaking out where he was talking about one particular American author, and then he'd say, "Of course, I'm not as rich as him, or I haven't got his money." And by the time I'd listened to about 3 or 4 episodes, I had this guy pigeonholed. It's like, he's an IFA. He's just a financial advisor with a microphone. And why the hell would I, if I intend building anything of any significance, he's not the guy I need to be listening to. If I'm the John of 20 years ago, who was a civil servant, working for 15 grand a year, I want to know about which is the best ISA to invest in, how to get more out of my pension, how to try and prepare for a retirement that I'm not going to be able to afford. But as a business owner who actually has got serious ambition to grow my investment portfolio and to actually become seriously wealthy, no, he's not the guy to listen to. You combine that with a guy that I know we've both been reading recently.
Feed the beast.
Mr. Grant Cardone. Now, if you've not heard any Grant Cardone, in fact, if you've read Grant Cardone, you haven't read Grant Cardone, because you need to listen to this guy. We've been listening to his audiobook as part of our monthly mentoring group. The book was called
Be Obsessed or Be Average.
That's it. I got that wrong.
I was trying to get the accent. I just couldn't get it. You've got to be obsessed.
Yeah.
Got to be obsessed.
That's an awful accent, because he's a deep south Texan, isn't he? He
is.
Rootin' tootin'.
I think the
gun
Feed the
toting.
Beast. That's a little bit better.
Yeah. So, Grant Cardone, he's basically he's an expert in sales. If you want to sell more, then you've got to study Grant Cardone. And if you want to think big, if you want to think bigger in any way, you've got to listen to Grant Cardone. This guy will just push you. He owns £500 million worth of property. That's $1 million worth. $500 million worth of property. He will tell you his public goal is to get $4 billion worth of real estate. Now, if I'm looking to build wealth, and I've got a property arm to that where I'm looking to build wealth in property, who am I going to listen to? Am I going to listen to the IFA with a microphone that doesn't invest in property even though he knows it's a good class to? Or am I going to listen to the guy who's got $500 million worth of bloody real estate?
And this is $500 million he didn't have when he started out.
Yeah.
This is $500 million he didn't have when he did his $10,000, $15,000 sales job, wasn't it, originally?
Yeah, he was a car salesman.
Yeah. So it's kind of like he's grown to that $500 million, and now he wants to take it on to the next level to $4 billion.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about that is he didn't know how he was going to do that. He just said, well, I've got this crazy goal. I mean, his initial goal was 20 apartments, was it?
Yes.
So yeah, he's working for, well, I'd say it's $15,000-$20,000 a year, and says, I'm going to own 20 apartments. How are you going to do that, Grant? I have no idea. But he did it, and he did it in like 6 months via some crazy ass stuff. And so how are you going to get to $500 million? I don't know, but he's done that. So, well, how am I going to get to 4 billion? Well, that's crazy. But, well, I've got $500 million, so I'm you know.
I think he's fine, 3.5 billion more, don't I?
Exactly, and then his attitude to that is right. So who's done that? Who do I study? You know, you could say Grant Cardone is the pinnacle of the investor. He's got $500 million worth of real estate, but as far as he's concerned, he's still on like rung 3 of the ladder. So he's peering up and saying, well, who's got $4 billion worth of real estate? How did they do it? You know, interesting point you said. He's not, you know, Trump. We've not made it past episode 1 without mentioning Donald Trump, but
you got to get him in there.
Donald Trump inherited his wealth. You know, Donald Trump Sr. was the man with the money. He was the man who actually made all this money in real estate and has just handed it to the Donald. Grant Cardone, very similar mindset to Donald Trump.
But made it happen.
He did, yeah, absolutely. But even he knows to listen to the right people, to the right person. And I think with Grant Cardone, I mean, if whether you studied him or not, he's a divisive character. He is very Marmite. And for any Americans out there listening, sorry you don't know what Marmite is, but the tagline is you either love it or you hate it. And I think no one goes Marmite. Yeah, it's all right, I suppose. People either go, oh, it's disgusting, or yeah, I love Marmite. Personally, I love it. Jason, sure.
Oh, I hate it.
There you go.
I'm not a Marmite lover at all.
So
I was eating Twiglets last night, and I had to leave the room because it just stank.
Yeah, not a fan of Twiglets. They are a Christmas
But
thing.
you do like Marmite? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Never mind, enough of that.
Okay, back to Grant Cardone, because Grant Cardone is very Marmite. You do either love him or you hate him, and I find myself both loving and hating him. So I'll be listening to him, and he'll be making me think bigger. He's really challenging me, and I think, oh, that's great. And then all of a sudden, he'll mention something that I completely disagree with, because we run what I class to be an ambitious lifestyle business. So everyone in our company works from home, but we are very ambitious. We work around people's lifestyles. Most of the people in the company have got kids, and we work around school runs and them being sick and having duvet days and all sorts. So as far as Grant Cardone is concerned, that's not a real business, and we've given up on our ambition. We have been treasonous to our potential. And you know, he's really passionate about this, and you find yourself going, no, I don't agree with you, you're wrong, you are wrong, mate, which is fine. But what would be very easy to do there is to go, I don't agree with Grant Cardone, so I'm not going to listen to him. Grant Cardone's got nothing to teach me because I don't agree with some of his principles. I don't agree with some of his sales tactics. Does that mean he's got nothing to teach me? No, clearly he's got a lot to teach me, but I just need to apply my own little filter to it to think, do I want to implement what he's actually teaching me there? And I think it's so easy just to turn off, just to switch off and say, no, don't agree with you, not gonna, I don't like you. Do I need to like somebody to take advice from them? No. I mean,
it's important to listen to a large group of people, all of which you're kind of aspiring to, really, in order to get as much information from them and glean them. They've obviously done it. They've been there. They've got the T-shirt kind of thing, and you want to find out how they've done that.
Exactly. I mean, talking about like needing to like people, I mean, one of the worst people to take advice from is friends and family. They are the
not
most...
all friends, can I just say?
Well, I mean, friends and family, they are always the first with the advice, and they're the most well-meaning with their advice, I think. So there's always good intentions there.
Sometimes they're just not quite so qualified to give that advice.
No, exactly.
That's what you say?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I think back to... So I launched my business in the summer of 2000, and I then worked part-time for about 18 months and finally left my day job in... Well, it was actually 1st of January 2002, so it was kind of... it would have been about 15 years ago. Yeah, well, in fact, it was 15 years ago now that I was kind of making that decision to leave the day job. And I think back to that period of time, I thought, if I had actually listened to my friends and family then, I wouldn't have a business.
What are you doing, John? You work in the civil service, you've got a job for life, you've got a pension, you're set in there for 15 grand a year.
Nice, safe, secure job. What the hell am I doing
Holidays.
with this weird internet thing? You know, I'm giving up a safe job. Do you know people are out there crying for jobs? You know, and this is the advice I was given. And it would be so easy because, again, very naive me, I was 22 years old, sat there thinking, well, these guys have lived through, you know, generations of work, and they know how life works. Well, if I look at it now, they don't, because, you know, my parents are retired. They've not got a lot of money, and that was working for a nice secure job with a nice pension at the end of it. That's what it got them. It got them, you know, not tremendous wealth, and I don't want that. I hated my job with a passion, so that I think was the kicker for me, because if I'd kind of enjoyed my job, I probably would have stuck it out. But if I'd listened to them, I certainly wouldn't have left the job. If I'd listened to other members of my family, the year before that, when I bought my first house, I wouldn't even be on the property market. I wouldn't even own a house, because they told me in the summer of 2000, housing market's overpriced. It's going to crash. You know, I paid £55,000 for my first house. I sold it 2.5 years later for £86,000. But if I'd listened to them, I wouldn't have made that 30 grand. You know, literally, because I wouldn't have bought a 55, because they were telling me, no, market's overpriced. You want to pay 35, 40,000 for that, tops. That's the most that house is worth. Now, were they property investors telling me that? Did they go and buy houses? No. They worked a day job. They read the Daily Mail. And, you know, sorry, I know.
Just cringe then for a second.
We had a little conversation. We had a little talk, a little prep talk before we hit mic, and we said, look, do we mention the Daily Mail? Because do we want to annoy people? Do we want to piss people off from episode 1? Do we?
And John said,
I said, yes, of course we do.
he likes Marmite.
At the end of the day, if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. So, what happens, Jason? I'm going to hand over to you. What happens when you listen to somebody like the Daily Mail or the Daily Express or the Sun or Sky?
It's the same with everything, really. To be honest, it could be just Facebook. It doesn't need to be a tabloid or
you don't need
newspaper.
To name
it could be kind of anything, really, because if you just focus on one area, whether that is reading a single newspaper or whether that's reading the Facebook or whether that's just quick looking in the search engines or whatever, really, and you resist yourself to that one viewpoint, then that's your viewpoint that you'll adopt, and that's how you'll see the world, as far as I can work out.
I think so. It does. It gives you that narrow viewpoint, and there's talk at the moment of sort of boycotting companies that sponsor certain newspapers and things like that. You mentioned earlier there's been a walkout of our local university, or a ban at the university of certain.
Oh, they've binned a few of the newspapers. Yeah, decided that they spurt too much hate in their journalism, and so they decided to ban them. I think a couple of universities have done that across, but our local one is certainly following that through.
To me, it kind of, you end up with this. It breeds fear, I think. I mean, hatred is the one that's obviously been banned around, but for me, it's fear. You just, are they going to be listening to this? No, probably not. If listen, like Chris, Mike, if you're listening, I'm sorry now. Just turn off the mic for a minute. But my parents-in-law are Daily Mail readers, and quite often they will kind of give me advice, tell me what's happening in the world, with the opening line, according to the Mail, and then they start spouting some racist nonsense or some thing that there's a mugger on every street corner, and it's just, they live their life through this kind of vacuum of fear, negativity, scarcity. I mean, that's the stuff that sells newspapers, and you've got to know that's the reason that the Daily Mail, sorry, if the Daily Mail are reading this and they want to sponsor the podcast, you can't, don't do ads, but if you do if you're listening, I make no apologies. You are the scapegoat of today's episode. But if you surround yourself with that kind of negativity, they spout it for a reason, because it sells newspapers. Man is very happy in his job, doesn't sell newspapers. Couple have been happily married now for 7 years, doesn't sell newspapers.
Doesn't win elections either, does it?
No, exactly.
You've got to kind of hate this. You've got to get this kind of extreme points.
You've got to stand for something. You've got to be on one side of the fence or the other. You can't sit on the fence. And I think they know what sells newspapers, and they know what gets people riled up. They hire columnists like Katie Hopkins, who, they don't hire Katie Hopkins for her wonderful prose writing or the way that she can structure a sentence. They've hired her because she can stir stuff up.
She has an opinion.
Yeah, she's got an opinion that they know half the people who read their newspaper, who pay them for their newspaper, will disagree with. They know that people will go onto their website and comment and say, this woman's spouting a load of rubbish. And then they'll share it with their Facebook friends, and they will get so much coverage from this divisiveness. But it just, I avoid all the newspapers, and I avoid a lot of the media. It means I don't do so well in general knowledge quizzes as I used to perhaps 10 years ago.
You used to be pretty good, to be honest. Yeah.
Now, not a clue.
You used to be good at music as well, and that seems to have gone.
Well, that's because music used to be good, and it isn't anymore. But to me, if you do surround yourself with that, and the lens that you view life is one that has a little filter on it, which is the news and what's going on in the world, it's fed to you by one particular brand. I'm not going to single out the Daily Mail anymore, but your life is then dictated, the quality of your life is dictated to by Brexit, by the stock market. Is the FTSE up or down? What difference is that having on your life today, that you can do anything about? House prices, we are obsessed with house prices. I mean, the Mail about this, but the Express, don't get me started on the Express. Literally, house prices are going to fall if you vote this way. I mean, they sway elections based on how much the house you're living in is worth versus how much it's worth next year, or who wins a reality TV show, or who killed Princess Diana. That's very much the Daily Mail the Daily Express that focus on that one. But it is filtering luck. Should you be listening to these guys? If you want to achieve anything yourself, and you want to, or you think that you've actually got any motion of control over your life, you need to be careful who you listen to. So, I mean, Jace, who should we be listening to? So
you, John.
Well, I agree.
And apparently Grant Cardone.
It is. I mean, I think obviously you should be listening to us. We all know that, but I think you should surround yourself with positive people. I think you should be listening to mentors. I think everyone should have a mentor, and that's one of the things I wish I'd done 10 years before I did it in business, was actually got a mentor. I had, in the very early days, a lot of people who helped me out and could class them as mentors. I mean, they were actually my competitors at the time, but we were able to actually swap notes, compare, literally help each other out, and everyone grew as a result. There was none of this, well, I'm making this pile of money here, this is my money, you're not having any of that. It was all, everyone was willing to help each other out. And I think when I first got started, bear in mind, I was a civil servant and I knew nothing about marketing, I knew nothing about the internet. So the natural progression for someone who knows nothing about marketing and nothing about the internet is clearly to launch an internet marketing company. And
natural progression.
It is. And looking back at what I did,
and those days it wasn't really kind of that, was it? It was kind of,
no, it evolved into that. Really.
Yeah, that's it. We've had a lot of evolutions over the period of time, and that certainly is it.
But I think going back to me not knowing how I was doing, we did promise not to swear here as well, so the kids can listen in. And I very nearly did that.
I haven't yet.
Well done. Shufty badge for you. Thinking back to when I knew nothing, I was a civil servant who read the Daily Mail, and Facebook etc. didn't exist back then. But I had this scarcity mindset, but what I did was study people who'd done it before. So we launched a freebie site. That was one of the first businesses that we launched, and I knew nothing about this, but I'd seen another one. So I literally went on there. Well, what do they do? Oh, they list it in these categories. Okay, what works better? What people tend to like? Literally introduced myself to a few of the guys who owned these websites, and lo and behold, literally I was able to ask them questions, and they would help me. I was coming along and saying, look, can you imagine someone coming along and saying, right, I want to own a burger joint. Excuse me, Ray Kroc from McDonald's, can I just pick your brains for a second on how to build? Yeah, exactly. Oh, by the way, do you mind? Can we do a list swap? Can I email your customers, please? No, he'd have told you to get where to go. Oh no, I'm starting to rant now.
So bringing it back then.
Bringing it back, you need to listen to mentors. You need to listen to people who've done what you want to do. People who've basically got the blueprint. Now you can approach people personally. You can find out what they've done, because normally people who've done what you want to do have written books. You can go to your library and read them. They've recorded audiobooks. I love audiobooks because I can listen in the car, I can listen when I'm walking the dog, and they've recorded podcasts. So go digest. Go digest the information. Head to YouTube. If you want to know how to do anything, go to YouTube. And I think if you want to achieve anything, then you need to know who to listen to, where to find them, and surrounding yourself with the right people and the right environment to bring it back to that brilliant place we started with my magic ingredient, which is the environment that you surround yourself with, who you listen to, what you watch, what you read, and who you hang around with. And of course, the most important of all that is us. You need to listen to us, and we are back here next week with another podcast. I don't know, how's this gone this week? Please do let us know. Jason will tell you in a minute just how you do that. But we will be back next week. When our topic next week is what do you really want, and the emphasis there is on the word really. So, Jace, how do the wonderful listeners to this podcast?
Okay, if you're on the podcast and you haven't found us on Facebook yet, you need to go and search for us on Big Idea Podcast. Ask to join the group and we'll preview into there. You can then watch us every Monday live. You can ask us questions as we're going along, and you can keep your questions coming in for what you'd like us to cover the following week.
That's it.
That's it. That's as simple as that. We don't make things.
I thought you were going to expand on that. I thought you were going to.
No, I think that sums it all up nicely, doesn't it?
It does.
So if you have any questions you'd like us to cover next week, obviously we're going to do what do you really want. That's what we'd like to cover. But if you've got anything you'd like to ask us on any of the areas in business that you've got issues with, pop your comments in the thread.
The community is there for you guys, really. It's a way that we can just keep this conversation going. We're sat here now. We talk to a microphone for half an hour. We just kind of have a little bit of a rant to go off topic. But we want to know, what do you guys want us to talk about? Is there a burning question you've got that you'd like us to answer? Is there anything we've mentioned in today's show that you don't understand, that we've actually perhaps not explained very well, that you'd like us to expand on? Leave a comment in the Facebook group. Again, search Big Idea Podcast on Facebook. Find us in the group. We'll have a chat with you. We'll talk to you in there for the rest of the week. And failing that, we will see you next week. Bye-bye. So we aimed to make that about half an hour podcast. Do you know how long that was?
Just about did that, to be honest.
31 minutes.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, see that.
I'm pretty happy with that, because that was kind of the aim. And just about a couple of minutes before the end there, I kind of realised I have no idea how long we've been talking.
I was keeping an eye on it,
and it was just like,
as you were going off, it's kind of like, let's bring that back in just a sec.
Yeah, I was just thinking this is either going to be like a 10-minute podcast, or oh look, it's been an hour and a half.
So Facebook, how did you get on with that? Did you like that?
I see we've got a couple of lives there. Ooh.
Do we?
We have, yeah. We've got 2 people watching at the moment, so it says. Thank you, Nick. Thumbs up for you. Thank you, Lucy, as well, for your comment. How did it go? Was it good? Was it, what was the, I mean, we're kind of watching it live, or certainly delayed here. So what's the sound quality like? What's the picture quality like? Was there any buffering? And yeah, how was the actual content for you? Was it good? You know, I know that. I mean, it was not polished.
It wasn't polished.
It's not. It's not going.
But it's not designed to be to that.
No, it's not. It's not
just
going to be. We said that from the start. We want this podcast to be raw and one take. You know, we're not going to kind of say, oh, you know, just edit that bit where I had to go at the Daily Mail. Just edit that bit out.
Or where I decided to lose myself along the pathway. Bring me back down the path. That's good.
I do. So thank you for that, guys. And thank you for your comment, Nick. Just saying that. I hope all's good with you, mate. And I'll have a chat with you online, I expect. Hopefully. Well, yeah. So this group is here for you guys. So if you want to keep the conversation going in here, ideal. If not, we'll see you next week for another live recording. And these actual podcasts are going to be going out. I think we're going to drip them out in the first week of January. So we're literally going to record about 6 and then drop them all out there at the same time. But in terms of Facebook Lives, we're going to be doing them every Monday around about this time, 12:30. Grab some lunch and have a chat. Cool. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So I do a dance.